What's the day after Christmas? Things don't stop. Craziness happens each and every day. Well, today we're going to talk about a few things that almost remind you of a prophetic warning. We're going to talk about Turkey and what they just said about Israel and how that impacts us. Because remember, Turkey has NATO ties. So are we obligated to protect a NATO ally against our biggest ally, Israel? It puts us in a very precarious situation. Very interesting. Let's talk about that today. Also, we're going to talk about what China's new white emperor looks like. The time of the white emperor that they just unveiled, it actually is unbelievable. And it actually is a step above America. Actually, it puts us in grave danger. We're going to talk about that. Not only that, we're going to talk about the housing crisis. What a new report revealed. And I keep telling you that this global financial problem that we're having is actually way worse than what 2008 was. We're going to talk about the numbers and how we have to be prepared for anything and everything that could come our way, especially in 2025. Let's dive into these stories today as we try to wrap up Christmas, but don't forget the meaning of it and enjoyment of it. And as we get prepared for the next year, we need to know these stories and know how they impact us and our families. Let's dive into these stories today. Hey guys, welcome to The Max. Thank you so very much for being here today. If you are new to our channel, please go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell, give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, that's okay, but let us know what you think about the content of today's video. Remember, when you comment and you are subscribed, you are entered into a giveaway each and every month. We gave away 2 gifts at the start of this month for November. We're going to give another 2 gifts in December. Now, the first gift will be on this channel, so if you're subscribed to this channel, you comment. One cool thing is YouTube puts in our analytics now who is commenting the most. It actually gives us a new algorithm so we can see who is commenting, who's doing the most, who's subscribed. It allows us to get those names, put them into a random selector, and then draw that. Now also, the second giveaway will be on the new channel, Life with Colby Mack. 4 full videos on there. It's life on our farm, what I do behind the scenes, and also how we raise our food sustainable, how we become preppers, how do we become, how we look at the news and how we proactively prepare our families. Please go check that out. It's a great uplifting channel. You would love it. You see my family a lot more, and it's just a good time. So go check that channel out. Subscribe to it. It has about 5,000 subscribers, so you actually have a better chance of winning over there. So please make sure you are subscribed to both channels. Now let's talk about the news of the day. First, are we seeing signs of what we consider a prophetic warning? Now, I'm not a prophet, but I think of biblical times. And if you remember in the Bible, in end times, there's a time called the Gog and Magog War. And it really deals with Russia. It deals with the fact of Russia's pressure on the Middle East and Israel. But it also deals with one major player, Turkey. Now, Turkey has really been in the news since Syria's situation and how they're fighting over certain parts of Syria, the mountain ranges closer to Israel, the fact of Turkey being on the other side. Now, let's talk a little history first. If you look at, biblical speaking, if you look at the land of Israel and what God said and what he was going to bless Abraham with, there was more land than what Israel is today. Now, you may not like that, but as Christians and as Jews, as someone who believes in the Bible, they're going to take over certain parts because they believe it's meant for them to do. Now, it doesn't mean you have to like it or not, but that is what their goal is. Now, let's talk about the other side. When we talk about the people who does not like Israel, which would be most of the Middle East, they're doing the same thing the opposite way. They believe the land is for them, and so therefore they're going to take over the land the same. What that actually says is there's no peace. We know that. Here's the thing, though. When it comes to Turkey and the biggest players in the Middle East, we hear, Iran, we hear Saudi Arabia and all that. But when it comes to Turkey, it's significant because it's significant in 2 ways. Biblical standing, because of the Gog and Magog war and end times prophetic warnings. Now, again, I'm not prophesying anything. I'm just saying it's something that very interesting to look at and important to look at, especially if you are someone who believes in our Bible. Now, secondly, on the national side, here's the catch-22 for the U.S. Remember, NATO, we're supposed to guard all our NATO allies, no matter what happens. Well, here's a problem. NATO ally, Turkey. Turkey is a NATO ally. It is part of NATO. One of the only countries really in the Middle East that's part of NATO. Now, our biggest ally other than NATO and who we call our NATO allies would be our biggest ally would be Israel. So now we're sitting here with a situation with a very weak leader, at least for the next 20 some odd days, 25, 26 days. And we have a major dust up to where Turkey says they will invade Israel. Now, are they going to invade Israel? Is it all just talk? Is it negotiations going to take place? If we don't find peace here, this could be a major war. Because not only are both Israel and Turkey both in the Bible and end times, meaning there's no time in history that they dissipate. Therefore, it could be a catastrophic war that actually could break out. Now, again, back in our terms, thinking of Earth and thinking of America, America, quote unquote, has an obligation to its NATO ally. So does every other European country that's fighting for Ukraine, who is not even in a NATO ally. But for instance, we are obligated to fight for NATO. However, Israel is what we consider our biggest and most confident ally. Not just in the world, but in the Middle East, of course. Not just in the Middle East, but in the world. So it puts us in a precarious situation with a weak leadership and a weak administration who has been not the biggest friends to Israel. What is actually going to happen in this chaos? Let's read a little bit more about this. Roger Stone had a good point. He said, Turkey, like the United States, is a member of NATO. Israel is not of NATO. Israel attacks Turkey. The United States has a treaty obligation. However, this is going to get very interesting because our dearest friends are Israel. Here's another report. It says, breaking, the son of the Turkish president has organized a massive rally calling for Turkey to take over Israel. Basically, he was stating he's going to take over one part today and take over the part and then take over another part the next day. That rhetoric, that talking, you remember, the Middle East is just a powder keg. We know that. And here we are, we made the problem and really caused a lot of the issues in Syria to now cause a bigger dust up, not only with the Palestinian situation, not only with the Iran and the terror groups, now we've caused a problem with Turkey. And Turkey being an ally of ours, and I use that term very loosely because I don't know if they're really a true ally, but we consider them an ally of ours. What is that actually going to mean for the Middle East? What's it going to mean for other nations who may not have the biggest respect for Israel? Are they going to side with Turkey? Are we going to see the true comings of like a biblical time war? A major conflict in the Middle East. Now, I'm hoping that they can hold the rhetoric off. And again, just like I say with Russia, Ukraine, I hope that Trump can get in. And again, he is coming into a crap load of bad things happening in the world. But this is just another thing that's got to take place, that's got to be fixed. If they don't, you're going to see a catastrophic situation because both of these countries are not the kind of countries that back down. You got to go back in time. Think of the Ottoman Empire, the Turkish Empire. Think of the Israel. Think of Israel from the biblical days of the start of time. These countries don't back down. So the question is, what and how are we going to develop peace and calm the rhetoric down and not put ourselves in a catch-22 with our biggest ally, Israel, but also a NATO ally, Turkey? Something to pay attention to. This is something that, again, I don't say it's prophecy. I don't say it's end times. I'm just saying this is what... these are big players in biblical prophecy and end times prophecy. And I think we just need to keep our eye on this Middle Eastern situation that's taking place and the conflicts that are coming around it. Houthis also just bombed in, and actually the Iron Dome did not stop to the missiles that went in for the last 2 days. So we have attacks coming from another angle too, not counting all the other dust-ups that has already taken place in the Middle East. Pay attention to the Middle East. I know everything always says it revolves around the Middle East. I'm saying it's not supposed to revolve around the Middle East. To be honest with you, it is. That is in anybody's belief, especially if you talk modern religions and Christian religion, Muslim religion, Jewish religion, all of it always starts and ends in the Middle East. So pay attention to what's going on over there with Turkey and Israel. Now, second story before we move into talking about the housing. What is Chinese white emperor? What does that actually mean? I want to show you a picture. Now, this is not drone footage. It kind of looks like drone footage, doesn't it? But look at this this image right there. I don't know if you can see that. That is what you call a sixth generation, or what they consider a sixth generation of a fighter jet, a stealth fighter jet. Let's talk about it a little bit. It says China has reportedly conducted the first flight of what could be the 6th generation of fighter jets, named Baidi or White Emperor. This aircraft is said to feature advanced technology, including AI-driven autonomy and hypersonic capabilities. Now, this is the part that gets a little scary for America. It says, there is some debate on whether this jet represents true 6th generation. However, this sophistication and model is shown as a concept testing and could very well be this. If this is the first ever 6th generation fighter jet that China has put in the skies, it would be the greatest achievement by China. And it will be more sophisticated and stronger and more powerful and more functional than anything that the Air Force of the United States has. The Air Force of the United States does not have this capability. And you're talking about a stealth AI-ran hypersonic jet. Isn't it amazing how we're talking about things in the sky? Again, not trying to scare you with the end times, but we think about all the stuff that's flying around our skies. We can't tell. We don't know what it is. I mean, it's not extraterrestrial. We know, but there's something causing the problem, and there's something that we're trying to be a solution to in America. Now we see the fact that China has developed some capability that we don't have, and that we have not even remotely gotten close to, based on some international news. Our military gets more money than probably any other provider in the world, other than maybe Russia right now. And for some reason, we can't build the technology that China just came up with. It's a big deal. Pay attention to it, because they're talking about using this White Emperor, and it's going to be one of their most sophisticated weapons ever. And no one else in the world has the capabilities of controlling it, handling it, and actually getting to the 6th generation aircraft like this one is, or said to be. So, why is this a fear for America? Well, because we're talking about going to Taiwan. We're talking about helping Taiwan. We're talking about being in the South China Seas. We're talking about all this stuff that we shouldn't even have our nose in. And now they're showing and kind of rubbing in our face that they've built technology that we don't even have yet. Now, we still consider have the biggest Navy. However, we don't have the most ships. China has passed us in ships. Now, we do have the biggest Navy still and the most powerful Navy. But what we're starting to see is, if we're not paying attention closely, we're seeing the drone warfare and the capabilities with Russia. We see the fact that China is now building things that we don't have yet, and they're growing exponentially. All the while, we're worried about gender problems with our military. 26 days before the president takes office. There's a lot that can take place in this next 20-something days, but not only that, it's a mess of a problem that he's going to be walking into, and this is just another sign of that. Now, lastly, let's talk about the one that affects you probably the most out of all this, because all the other stuff's around the world, and yes, those things can affect us, or affect our money, affect our time, and of course our efforts and our stress, but this is one that actually should affect you the most. Do you remember the great financial crisis of 2008? I want to read something to you from the Kobayashi letter that I think that we need to pay attention to. U.S. existing home sales are set to close at the lowest point in 2024 since 1995, meaning we have had the worst setback since 1995. Sales are set to be even lower than the 2008 financial crisis. The lack of demand for existing homes comes as home prices have jumped 50% since 2020. So what the pandemic did, it made the fact that people cannot afford houses because the house prices have went up so much, and that people can't turn around and buy them because the economy is so bad. So therefore, we are seeing a financial crisis in the housing market that is worse than what we saw that crashed the market in 2008. Pay attention. Over the same time period, mortgage rates have nearly tripled, making affordability even worse. The average rate of a 30-year mortgage is up 100 basis points since September alone. Since September alone, it's went up 100 basis points to 7.1%, even with the Fed cutting the rate by 100 basis points. Now, let's bring that down to education level of everybody to understand that. That means the Fed messed us over by raising rates to then turn around and lower the rates. Now, do I believe that we should have kept the rates high? Yes, because our economy and inflation is a problem. But what the Fed sees is the only way that they're not going to put ourselves in an open fiscal financial crash is to try to get people spending money again and try to get housing more affordable. despite them lowering the 100 basis points, despite them lowering the interest rate climbed. Meaning the value of the interest and the mortgage rates climbed. Meaning people cannot afford these homes, and then they cannot keep the homes that they're in, and the rent has went up astronomical for the ones who are not buying homes. What we're seeing is the start of a demise of another housing crisis. And I say crises because it's a polycrisis. It's several things happening at once. The fact that people have no money, the fact that people have more debt than they've ever had, the fact that our nation has more debt than it ever has, the fact that our Fed can't even control the interest right now. They're making the inflation go back up. At the same time, they cannot control the mortgage rates like they're supposed to because they're a failed system. And also now we see people are losing their homes, not able to buy other homes, and of course not able to build homes because of the cost of the business of doing that. We're going to see a failure in our mortgage and our housing crisis this year that could be way worse than what we saw in 2008. Now we have tons of videos of what you do with your money and how you make sure that you can protect your home. So you better go back and watch those videos. But what we're seeing is these stories that we're talking about, 3 major stories that Trump is fixing to walk into. A biblical style end times war, conflict in the Middle East. The fact that our mortgage crisis is becoming a bigger problem that not even the Fed and our own government can help hide anymore. And the fact that China and other countries are now building better capabilities and bigger capabilities than our military can even fathom. We've spent hundreds of billions of dollars, almost trillions of dollars for quote unquote technology for failed audits, and then to see our Defense Department ran into the ground in the Pentagon, worry about what someone has as a gender. I mean, it just blows my mind. They're worried about educating you on inclusiveness and diversity instead of actually worrying about protecting America. This is why I think the Pete Hegseth pick is such a good pick. Not because Pete Hegseth is so phenomenal and great, and not because Trump is doing everything perfect. It's because they're looking to fix a system that has been ran by the same old forever. And if they come in here and change some things, then maybe we have hope to start saying, you know what? Let's put America back first. Let's start building better capabilities, not to go to war, not to have conflict, but to help provide peace and provide safety for Americans. If China wanted to use that in our, skies, like all this other stuff flying around, we have nothing to stop it. That's not counting the missiles that we were talking about from Russia. Russia said their ICBMs and their hypersonic missiles can hit London within just a few moments. And there's not one capable player in the world that could actually hinder that and stop it before it got there. How are we supposed to protect NATO countries, or how are we supposed to protect our own country if the other 2 major players are building more capabilities that are bigger than us? Not because we need to go to war, not because the war hawks want you to spend money. What it is they're getting a lot of kickbacks, they're failing audits, and they're not actually spending their money wisely in truly protecting America. Trump is walking into a crazy January and a crazy term for the next 2 years, along with the speaker who may have sold him out and backstabbed him, along with a Senate Majority Leader who does not like him, along with a lot of other people who want to see him fail. Now, that's a lot of bad things happening. But ultimately, a few things. Prepare. Go back and watch the list of what you could do with your money. Start stockpiling goods, waters. Tomorrow we'll be talking a little bit about that, about what a new report shows that what people are really willing to spend their money on, and it's prepping goods. Prepping goods. People are wanting to buy more food and water and self-defense and safety measures for their home than what they're buying like town food. People are getting away from the realization that everything is just perfect. It's not. I had a guy message me yesterday, and he was talking about how he wants to see more communities turn out like the Amish, turn out like the Mennonite communities, turn out like communal living, to where people understand that there could be tough times, and we have to work in communities to have a chance to make it and survive this crazy collapse of our finances, the housing problems, and the fact that we don't even know what's happening across the world and even above us in the air. Pay attention, prepare, ultimately pray for our nation, pray for our new leaders coming in, pray for the leaders we have now, because they need prayer more than anything, because they're weak, and we're seeing that now come to fruition for the last 4 years. Guys, thank you so much for watching. We hope that you have a wonderful day, and ultimately remember to pray for our nation and seek guidance and wisdom, so that way these stories help you to be better and proactive instead of being a reactive person and stressing and worrying about it. Be proactive, prep on, and most of all, pray. Guys, thank you so much for watching. God bless.